Happy Tuesday, everyone. Josh of Severe Weather. Appreciate you joining me here as the tropics, as you would expect, continue to show signs of picking up very quickly here for the month of August. And we've got several areas we're watching and a fish storm, Tropical Storm Dexter, we continue to track as it moves away to the north and east of Bermuda over the subtropics. However, we've got more coming off of Africa now that things are starting to pulse up and the threat for multiple storms over the coming weeks. And I do truly believe one of those will probably become our first hurricane of the season, albeit it's a little bit early to get too specific yet until that indeed forms. So before we go any further, before I walk you through what we're looking at today, I'd prefer if you could become a subscriber and like the video and share with others who you know who may be interested in the tropics or live in a tropical zone, as it's the beginning of what's going to be a pretty active stretch of storms here once again over the next few months. So we're going to get right to it here. I'm sharing my screen with you to show you what we are seeing this afternoon on our visible satellite from Tropical Tidbits. Here is Tropical Storm Dexter, which is moving to the northeast. It is going to stay well south of Atlantic Canada, well to the north of Bermuda here, and no threat to land. That's our fourth named system, none of which have gotten to the hurricane intensity at this point. So it has been a little bit quieter than recent years, actually a lot quieter than recent years, but we are going to see additional activity in the coming days. In the Pacific, we do have a tropical storm here. I believe Gabrielle, that is moving well out over the open and cooler waters of the Pacific. And we've got another area of disturbed weather, which is likely to become a depression and storm as it tracks parallel to the Mexican coastline. In the United States, we've got the heat across the west, and that is going to be building back into the center of the country. This big heat dome is again going to heat things up for everybody except the southeastern United States. Where we've got a lot of moisture in place. We've got kind of a stalled out frontal boundary right in here, and that is keeping the weather cloudy and awfully wet, in particular across Georgia and the Western Carolinas and into Virginia. And a lot of rain expected from that, having nothing to do with anything going on in the tropics today. We are watching some disturbed weather here north and east of the Bahamas. This could try to form into a weaker surface low and gain some tropical characteristics over the next few days. A medium chance of that happening. Yesterday, I said it looked like there was a possibility it could try to pull something like a Chantal and cause very heavy rain as it moved inland. The track today looks like it's going to just brush the coast, and most of the heavy rain will affect eastern North Carolina, the Outer Banks. But again, until that forms, we don't exactly know what all is going to happen from that system, but likely going to be a rainmaker by the time we get to Friday and over the weekend. So not good beach weather, unfortunately. Here is a look at the current season stats, and you can see we are below the climatological average as our ACE has gone up above 2. I'm forecasting 150. The average is a little over 120. So we obviously have some ground to make up for that forecast to look good. It is a seasonal forecast. Doesn't even tell you where storm will hit, although I am highlighting Florida and the East Coast to be an active area that we need to be watching here as we head later in August, September, and into October. But you can see here 4 storms which have not had a whole lot with them. 2 of them really didn't last long, and the other 2 just haven't caused any major issues at this point, other than inland flooding with tropical moisture from Barry and Chantal, but no major wind issues, and the pressures have stayed above 1,000. So all in all, it's been a fairly quiet start to the season. Now, I don't expect that's going to last. And the reason why, as you can see, we've got a lot of warm water from the Gulf and the Northwest Caribbean right into the Western Atlantic. And in some cases, temperatures are running 3 to 5 degrees Celsius above the average. So when storms get here under favorable conditions, they are going to have the probability of becoming stronger due to the fact that ocean water temperatures are so warm. Now, that's part of the puzzle. You can have all the hot water in the world, but if nothing splashes around in it, then it's just hot water. It's a wasted hot bath, if you want to call it that. I do think over time we're going to see things changing. I do want to show you some different graphics today than what I typically show you. Just plotting out what we've seen from NOAA here. Tropical Atlantic sea surface temperatures. Now, they are not nearly as hot as they were last year when we were basically off the charts up in here beyond the highest 5% of recorded seasons. But you will see we are well above trend, and we are increasing these ocean water temperatures here. So it's warming up, and it's warming up a little bit faster than usual with the peak likely in early October, although September is certainly warm enough. Wind shear, on the other hand, has been a little bit higher than usual, at least over the last 30 days or so. It is starting to come down now, as you would expect, as we reach our seasonal minimum here in September and October. So the wind shear is relaxing overall. And that's another important ingredient here. So we have to have warm water and low wind shear to get multiple storms. But the sea level pressure has been higher than average, meaning we've had sinking air in place. We've had high pressure. And for storms to form, we need lower pressure. There were moments when the pressure got quite low, but you had to go back to April and May, and then just a few moments over the summer. But overall, you see the trend line is actually higher than average. Now, over time, we can see that this number is expected to drop again, and how fast it drops, of course, is going to determine where we start to see storms forming. Another thing we like to look at is how much moisture is in the air. When water vapor is on the higher side of this line, that means it's actually drier than average in the mid and upper levels of the atmosphere. When it's lower than the trend line, i.e. down in here, then we have more moisture in play. And for a lot of the main part of the season here, we've had drier than average moisture content. So that doesn't help go for a longer term trend of storms forming. But again, we're moving closer to the average, so we may make up that ground. And then finally, vertical instability. What this indicates is rising air, rising motion in place. So we've got some ingredients that are coming together here with lowering wind shear, warming sea surface temperatures. We still have higher than average pressure. We still have lower than average water vapor, and we have lower than average vertical instability. See, we're on the lower side. But again, it's trending back towards trend here as we get into the middle of August. So the higher this goes, the more we need to be concerned with more cloud cover and more rising motion. On the East Coast, though, that number has been above average the entire season, which is why I continue to be concerned about the East Coast. We are seeing that number just staying above trend and much above trend. And so we've had multiple systems near the East Coast. Now, fortunately, they've, like Dexter here, they've gone off into no man's land. But the Caribbean, we're starting to make up that ground now, where it's been a very quiet start to the year in the Caribbean versus last year when we had Hurricane Beryl, just incredible storm for so early in the season. But you can see why we didn't have a Hurricane Beryl, because this time last year, this number was way up in here. Now it was way down. It is returning to average, so we are starting to see things coming back to where I expected they would be here during my preseason forecast. Taking a little time to do that, but we are heading in the wrong direction if we want to avoid major systems. Now, here is the latest outlook from the folks in Miami. Here's Tropical Storm Dexter. Winds are 40 miles per hour, moving northeast at 12 miles per hour. We are watching for a weak system to form, potentially towards tropical depression strength. About a 40% chance that happens. If it does, it's going to be after Thursday, I believe, probably towards Friday and Saturday. This chance has gotten a little bit higher since this time yesterday, but it is not trending up very quickly. So there's still some uncertainty as to whether or not we're actually going to have a tropical system form. But regardless, we are going to be dealing with some rain at the coast as soon as Thursday into Friday, working north and eastward here by the weekend. And then we've got a wave that has come off of Africa, which we do need to watch for tropical development. Models are showing that this will likely become some form of a tropical cyclone, possibly even a stronger tropical storm, maybe even our first hurricane of the year, with the next name on the list being Aaron. Of course, this could become Aaron. This could be Fernand. We don't know yet. But right now, the trend for that one is to find a break in the area of high pressure and turn more to the right. Only one model has shown it trying to miss that weakness in the high and maybe continue on a more westward path. And that is the GFS model, which has been an outlier in many cases, typically is. So for now, it's an option we've got to watch, but it's not the most likely path. We're also concerned about what may happen afterwards, and I'm going to get to that in a little bit. Here's little Tropical Storm Dexter. You can see that little naked swirl here now getting covered back up. Strong westerly, west-northwest or west-southwesterly wind shear here is keeping Dexter from strengthening. Even though the water temperatures support a strengthening storm, what's going on is you've got a storm that's just hanging on by its dear life, kind of like it's got the fingertip on the edge of the cliff about to fall off. Now, interestingly, these fast winds aloft will actually give Dexter a possibility of maybe strengthening some more up in here. but that's not going to be due to tropical processes. So regardless, it's a fish storm. We don't have a lot to talk about other than that it may be a little stronger after it loses tropical storm characteristics and becomes a post-tropical system Thursday into Friday. Still have to watch that as it head towards Ireland and the UK here early next week. We'll have more on that coming up. I haven't given it much time, but something we need to watch there as well. And behind Dexter, that is the system right here. Whoops, I thought I grabbed my pencil. Here's Dexter. We do have an area of disturbed weather in here, kind of a trough that extends from northeast of Cuba into the southwest Atlantic. And you can see things are pretty hostile right now. We've got wind shear coming up and over it, keeping it from strengthening. That wind shear is going to weaken some as the system moves in this direction. So it's very possible we could see a low pressure system form here in about 2 days. But what happens right now still looks a little bit uncertain. Here's a look at the European ensemble. We've got 51 different scenarios here possible, all showing a weak area of low pressure forming later tomorrow night or early on Thursday. You can see that here. The general trend is for a northerly turn. And again, we've got very weak scenarios for the most part here. But this is Friday afternoon, and it's still offshore, but we do have some models bringing it northward towards the Outer Banks here Friday night. Other models are beginning to pull it away, and there's still some chance this doesn't even develop into anything but stays disturbed with no actual surface circulation. So still some uncertainty here, as you could imagine. Tropical models are not going to run until we have what's called an invest. And when that happens, then there's still a chance it may not even become a tropical system, but at least we'll have more tropical tuned models. At this point, this is a global model, so it has some weakness in trying to figure out how this is going to form. But you can see overall, we're not looking at a strong system. Only one or two outliers brings it towards the Outer Banks as a tropical storm. Everything else is already turning away. So this has changed. Yesterday, we saw most of our guidance pulling the system in this direction. Now we're seeing whatever's out there going this way. So better news overall for what's going to be waterlogged North Carolina and South Carolina here by the end of this week. But we're going to keep an eye on it. It could sneak in a name and could become Aaron or Fernand, depending on what happens out in the Atlantic. But at this point, not a major weather player and probably not a repeat of Chantal, which is goes against what I was saying yesterday, but that's the weather. It does, in fact, change. Here's a look at rainfall amounts from the GFS model here, just to give you an idea. And it looks like more rain's actually falling from our frontal system, which is running into this ridge of high pressure over the western Piedmont here. Places like Statesville and Hickory and Charlotte got a lot of rain this morning. Greenville, Spartanburg into northeast Georgia. Potential for 3-4 inches of rain in 24 hours here. There will be moisture at the coast. Wednesday into Thursday, we're going to see minor amounts of rain, then maybe more substantial rain for the Outer Banks. But this has changed as we look at what's going on. It's just a front stalled and some tropical moisture interacting with it here this weekend. So it's going to be a lousy weekend, unfortunately, here. But I don't think we're talking about a direct hit. You see what yesterday was showing on the GFS, much more rain in places like Morehead City and New Bern and Oriental and those areas here, maybe Greenville and Goldsboro. Whereas today's model, because that low looks like it may try to stay offshore or go farther east, has a higher amounts of rain confined just to the Outer Banks. So we'll see if that trend continues, but that's what we're looking at this point. Still going to be wet through the weekend, regardless of what forms or doesn't form, just because we're stuck in this moist pattern. And it doesn't look like it really lets up much until we get to the middle of next week. So we're locked in this for at least another 7 days. Unfortunately, not the best week if you're planning an Outer Banks or Carolinas or Myrtle Beach trip with good chances for rain. All right, looking at the Caribbean, Gulf of America here, pretty quiet. You will see that we do have a pretty well-defined disturbance moving away from Central America. This is probably our next Pacific storm. Still very quiet across the Caribbean and the Southern and Central Gulf. Just no signs of any life at this time. If something's going to form, it more than likely is going to have to come from the deeper tropics. You can see over the Central Atlantic, we're starting to finally see some things beginning to come together. Nothing well-defined. We've seen this before, though, and nothing has, in fact, formed. That could change, though, as we head later into the week and towards the weekend. And in the Eastern Atlantic, you will see the tropical wave we're tracking that has a 50-50 shot. That spin is right here. It's going to head in this direction. So right now, something we're just watching, nothing that looks like an immediate threat. And it's going to have lots of time for us to watch. I do want to turn your attention, though, behind that wave, we've got over Central Africa here, a lot more convection. We're starting to see things really ramp up over the tropical portion of Africa. And this wave right here is being flagged as one to watch here. That's what my graphic that brought you here, the thumbnail brought you here, is what we're tracking, and one behind it as well. So these systems have a lot more rain with them, and it looks like they're going to stay south of the drier African Saharan layer of dust. So here is a look at the areas we're tracking. Here is Dexter right here. That is already a tropical storm. We don't really need to do the strike probability. It's 90% or higher. This is the area we're watching over the weekend here. 70% chance it becomes a depression. Again, I think that's iffy at this point. I think this one here has got a better shot, even though it's saying 60%. We're also going to watch the next wave after that comes off here next week. This is really just valid through Friday at this point. But as we move on into time, let's say we look at next Wednesday, you're going to see a lot more action showing up over the central and southern Atlantic, tropical Atlantic here. And this next wave certainly is one to watch by the time it gets west of about 40 degrees west, maybe even 45 to 50. So if you're in the islands, you definitely need to be watching this. If we're in the U.S., yes, we need to watch, but right now, too soon to say. As we go later into next week and next weekend, you can see in general that disturbance, assuming it holds together here, is tracking towards the northeastern Caribbean. Let's see if I can change the color here. Oh, that's going to be bad. Let's do this here. Black. So whatever comes off of Africa here, probably late this week, will potentially be in this area of the Caribbean here in about 10 days. So we do need to watch that. Whatever's over the Carolinas is heading out. Whatever's in the Gulf is really doesn't have a great chance of developing. And the wave before it is probably heading in this direction here. Probably. There's just not enough support to take it back in this direction towards Florida, despite what you may see on social media. But again, until it happens, we can't really say that for sure. Over the next week, we are going to see a ramp up in storm activity with 80% above the average cyclone energy. Next week, that chance climbs even more. We're going to be up to 240% of normal. So next week, I would book as being a busy week in the tropics. The following week as well, twice the average here for that final full week of August, and then heading towards September, the averages come up. So we meet us basically at the middle here, right just at above average. Here's the probability of a storm strike. This is this week. All you can see really is Dexter. Next week, we are tracking the next feature here. The European forecast certainly puts the Caribbean, especially the Northern Caribbean, in range. Also something to watch in Cuba, South Florida, the Bahamas, the East Coast. Again, it's awfully far off, so really too soon to say. Beyond that, the East Coast is targeted, but the Gulf is also in play. So is Mexico. We'll have more coming off of the Atlantic here that we need to keep an eye on. And then the following week, we continue to track things over the Western Atlantic. There'll be more coming off of Africa, as you can see here. Our overall chances are for something are going to be at least 30 to 40%. So much of the tropics are favored for action here, I would say, starting with Africa, but also watching things near the East Coast. Southwest Caribbean, Southern Gulf, I'm not feeling very confident in something at this point. Maybe more the Eastern Gulf and Florida in particular, we need to be watching. Here's the global tropics hazards outlook. This just came out a little bit earlier today from the Climate Prediction Center, highlighting a decent chance of having a named system next week that is aimed right towards the Leeward Islands, Puerto Rico, and Hispaniola. Here's the wave behind it. If you remember, I showed you let me go find the loop again for you real quick. That is this pulse here, which is moving through South Sudan. So it's got a lot of time to go, but models indicate that things will be favorable for that to possibly develop into a system as well. Over the next week, you can see wet in the southeast here, but if you're watching the tropics, you can see here's the first area we need to watch. South America is going to get awfully wet here, and the northeastern Atlantic will be busy as well. Beyond that, this is, by the way, from the World Climate Service, part of Prescient Weather. Next week, we can see that things are definitely going to get more active in the Caribbean. It's been so dry, but we're going to get wet here. And we need to watch things anywhere in the southeast, in the Caribbean. More coming off of Africa. You can see it stays wet across the African tropics area here. Beyond that, maybe quieter across Africa. We get a break, but unfortunately, that means we are likely to see something closer to the United States or the Southwest Atlantic or the Gulf of America. Really tough to say. I don't know what's going on in my pen here. There we go. It just wasn't coming up. So you can see this area here highlighted means we're probably going to have one or two tropical systems to watch that week of August 18th to 24th. And then the last week, things are more typical. We may get a break from the African wave train. Doesn't mean we're totally out of the woods. Just means we don't have a lot new coming through at that point. Here's a look at the European AI. I was going to pull up the latest. I don't know if it's free. I guess it's not. Just to show you some possibilities here. Here's the wave that we're going to be watching. You can see not a lot showing off the southeast coast. A lot less support today than before. Couple of scenarios showing something weak forming in the Eastern Gulf. I don't know at this point if that's even going to happen, but we'll watch it. But this first area here is coming northwest, staying north of the islands. And there's a little bit of support that it tries to come back towards Florida, but it's more likely coming nearer to the east of Bermuda and moving out over water. Now, the next system behind it, that one's more of a concern. As you can see, our scenarios here are for a storm that comes up close to the East Coast, a storm that comes up near Bermuda, or it stays on the southern track, goes over the islands and hits Florida, or even goes into the Gulf. Again, that's a very big spread, so it's awfully early to make any immediate call on that. And the European as well. Don't know if we have the 12Z in just yet. I guess we don't. European as well has support for something here near the Outer Banks, something weak. Here's our next feature, likely staying northeast of the islands, other than one really option that takes it near Barbados. But the one after it more likely takes a more southerly track. And we do have some hurricane potential, as you can see here, with some scenarios pointing towards a hurricane on the 13th, 14th of August. So flash forward 9 days. That's what we're going to have to wait about 8 or 9 days before we know exactly how that's going to play out. Beyond that, it could stay south and west, go into the Gulf, could threaten Florida, could threaten Mexico, or it could recurve, or it could hit the East Coast. Again, there's such a big spread at this point that we don't know. The only thing I can really say with confidence is that it's more than likely this first leading system is going to come up this way, and the second system's either going to go this way or it's going to try to come up in this direction. And we don't know exactly how that goes. And if you're in Florida, you definitely need to be watching. That's all I'm going to say at this point. I can't really say anything more. Here's a look at the European model, just to give you all an idea of where we're seeing this moisture picking up. Here's our first feature in here. The European doesn't really want to develop it too much here between now and next Monday, but it could happen. I don't think it's going to be a hurricane, but we'll give it a shot at this point. Here's the next system, and the European takes it so far south. Earlier runs brought it up closer to Florida. There's more behind it. Here's the third system we're going to have to watch, and maybe one behind that as well. The GFS model, as you can imagine, or here, we'll start with the AI here. I just gave away the secret sauce, but here's the AI. You can see the first feature comes out here. The second one's farther south, so it does have a shot at affecting the islands here around the 15th of August. And then after that, maybe it has a better chance of developing. And I don't know how this will play out because it's going over all the main islands. It may not be this strong, or it could stay south, or it could go north. But either way, we've got to watch it. And then the next feature is lined up behind it around the 20th. And finally, the GFS model, the one that loves to put out some fantasy hurricanes. I think it's already predicted 20 this year. I don't know, but you can see with the first system, instead of pulling it northward, it keeps it on a westerly path, which would be a lot more concerning in the southeast. But again, it's an outlier. If it does do that, and that's a big if, it's something that we'll have to watch on the southeast coast around the 15th or 16th. So not this weekend, but the following weekend. The one after it, because this one takes all the headlines away, the one after it, it doesn't even show forming. I really don't think this is going to be the case, but it's possible the GFS scores a coup here, and we do, in fact, see our first wave develop into a hurricane. I don't think it's a likely scenario. It's something that's possible at this point. It's probably going to have to take a lot to just have this kind of a mutiny on all the other models, which don't show that happening. So more of this to come, but we definitely need to be ready. This is the time of year we need to be ready. I know we say that in May and June, but we're now to the time of season where the Atlantic Basin can support a hurricane, and maybe a stronger hurricane as well. So here we go. Here's Dexter, tropical storm. Let me move that to today. It's down to 40 miles per hour. Here's the area that's got a 40% chance of forming. I highlighted the southern part of it, but if there's low pressure, it forms farther north. Here's the area that the GFS tries to take towards Florida. Everybody else recurves it nearer to the east of Bermuda. Here's a bunch of dry air. Then we've got the next waves to come after that over Niger, Chad, and all the way to South Sudan. So it's got quite a bit of time. The Pacific is busy. We will likely have a tropical storm coming south of Acapulco here towards the end of this week. We do have Tropical Storm Henriette. Sorry, I called it Gabrielle. It's Henriette. And that is something we'll have to watch in Hawaii here right now, likely to stay north and east as a weak system, but we're going to have to watch it just in case. And the Western Pacific is not totally dead, but we do have weaker systems that aren't impacting land at this point. Bailu is falling apart. There's another area that could become a system, but will recurve and follow Bailu. We're going to watch disturbed weather east of the Philippines. And then over the Indian Ocean, we do have a couple of areas to watch. But none of these looks to be a threat to land at this point. So here is Henriette. Here's the cone, which shows it staying to the north and east of Hawaii. Remember, Gil didn't make it that far, and the storm before it came by to the south. This one might have a little bit better chance, so we'll have to keep an eye on it. But aside from that, I think we're going to be in fairly good shape for the next few days. So I appreciate y'all's time today. That was a lot, more than usual, but I will leave you with a quick Christian word of encouragement. And this is the word of God for the people of God, because I am a Christian and I truly believe in the power of Jesus Christ. We all worry about the tropics. We worry about life. We worry about politics, where our next paycheck will come from, our health, our family. We all sit there and worry. At the end of our lives, all that gets taken away from us. I mean, we may see the world come to an end. We may see the rapture and then the new earth. I don't really know. I know what I believe. But the good thing is that if you believe that Jesus Christ is your savior, you will be guaranteed a spot in heaven. You'll be rapture ready. So what's going to make you really worry? Because when your short time on earth is gone, what's all that anxiety going to lead to? Really nothing. And that's what Paul tells the church of Philippi: be anxious for nothing, but in everything by prayer and supplication or petition, depending on which version you read, with thanksgiving, let your requests be made known to God. And the peace of God, which surpasses all understanding, will guard your hearts and minds through Christ Jesus. There's some very important parts of this scripture. The first one is don't worry all the time. The second one is let your requests be made known to God. Why? Well, if you don't talk to God, what kind of a relationship with God is that in the first place? We can hope and hope all we want, but God needs some communication with you. I'm not here today to gain your approval. I've already got God's approval, and that matters so much more than any one being's approval. What's holding you back from that approval? I say go to God in prayer in your darkest times, and his peace, which surpasses everyone's understanding. We don't understand what that peace is. We can certainly hope, we can wish for it, but that will guard our hearts and minds away from Satan, away from the enemy, away from the darkness that's out there, and pull it towards Christ Jesus. And that is the good news I wanted to share with you today before we finish this video up. I appreciate y'all's time today. I hope everybody has a safe Tuesday evening, and I'll be back here tomorrow. God bless you.